went nuts.
Yes.
I was so mad, and I held on to that until then. So after I did that pyramid move on you, I did say, now we're even.
Right, and I think you can look at that move and say, even though, listen, if you would have came out on top with that pyramid move, then I think we would have been even, but I think you kind of have to look at that situation and say to yourself, okay, maybe ISAM was never wrong, maybe I just shouldn't have showed him my hand. I think that was your downfall, and I think your downfall is that you're trying to make an excuse for a slip-up you made. I mean, you've said numerous times in this league that it really is every man for themselves.
Yes.
So if you're telling me who you're going to draft and you're giving me that leverage over you, I'm sorry to say, but that's on you, Al.
You're right. I blame nobody but myself. And I can't even say that I got you back because I didn't. I ended up losing in the championship to you.
You did, yeah.
Okay, and then the following year, I give you credit. Again, same as DRAMABOWL 10. Nobody thought you belonged, and nobody thought that you had the team to get there, and you did. You shut everybody up. The following year, again, before the season started, I did say to my brother Sully that I want ISAM in the championship game. He's like, why? I was like, because I want to avenge last year.
Sure.
Nobody gave you a chance. And I kept rooting for you all year because, listen, put yourself in my shoes. If you were me, wouldn't you want a shot at redemption?
100%.
Yes.
100%.
So I wanted to. When I got you back in the championship, it did look like you were going to pull off a back-to-back at one point.
It did.
And then Davante Adams saved me. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Adams went off for 40-something points, and that's what saved me. I mean, the final score was higher than what the game really was. The game was closer than the score. The score was 153.4 to 123.3, but that was only because I only had Adams left and you were done, and Adams went off for over 40.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest. Obviously, we wanted to go back-to-back. I honestly think that second roster probably had some more holes than my first-year roster. I think that second roster, I think I spread it a little bit too thin. I traded a lot of assets for Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones, and it got me to the championship. But at the end of the day, when Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook Dalvin Cook didn't even play that championship game. I'm sorry. Neither did James Robinson, by the way, who was also big for me that year.
Yes.
Dalvin Cook and James Robinson did not play for me that year. It ended up shooting me in the foot, and I was left shorthanded.
If you had done both, I think you go back-to-back.
Yeah, and that's what it looked like. I remember waking up that morning. I woke up the previous day, and I was going to pick up James Robinson's backup, but the thing is I would have needed to drop somebody, and at that point, everybody I wanted to keep for next year. I was reading that James Robinson was questionable, but he was trending towards playing, and lo and behold, it's like 11:30, and I get the notification that James Robinson is out. So that kind of screwed me a little bit. Not to mention, I made some bad roster starts. I benched a 30-point Jamison Crowder, who was having a pretty solid year. That's on me. I made some bad decisions on that championship game. I had the opportunity to win it, but I just made the wrong moves.
All right, let's go over some of your DRAMABOWL records here. In 7 seasons, you've made the postseason twice. Both times you've made the postseason, you've made the championship game.
Right.
DRAMABOWL 7 was your first year in the DRAMABOWL. You went 3-10, finished the 11th seed, and you also finished 11th in scoring. DRAMABOWL 8, you went 5-8. You finished the 9th seed, 9th in scoring, missed the playoffs. DRAMABOWL 9, you went 4-9. You finished the 10th seed and 10th in scoring, and you also missed the playoffs. You followed it up with DRAMABOWL 10, in where you went 8-5. You finished the 5th seed, 4th in scoring, and you won the championship that year.
Correct.
DRAMABOWL 11, you went 6-8. You finished the 8th seed. You finished 5th in scoring, and you lost in the championship. Right. DRAMABOWL 12 and 13, identical numbers. Both seasons you went 4-10. Both seasons you finished 10th in the standings. And DRAMABOWL 12, you finished 11th in scoring, and 9th. And DRAMABOWL 13, you finished 9th in scoring. Both seasons you missed. Your overall record in the DRAMABOWL is 34-59. You come off better than that.
Yeah, I think you look at my early days, and I don't really like to make excuses for myself, but I think, one, obviously my first season, you look at that roster, and that was not a roster. that was
Yeah, I give you credit. You did some work on that roster. I mean, you took over a deadbeat team.
That was a practice squad roster at best. My number one receiver heading into that year was the third string wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals at the time, whose name was Jerron Brown. Yeah. I doubt anybody remembers who that is. My best asset was Adrian Peterson, who tore his ACL in week 3, who I actually managed to trade by week 2, so that ended up working in my favor. But yeah, I mean, that was just a beat-up roster. So I take the first year, and I like to throw that out the window. So that would bring my roster to 31 and 49. I think you said it was 34 and 59, I believe.
You were 34 and 59 overall. That would bring you to 31 and 49.
Yeah, so I think if you 31 and 49, I think that's probably a more accurate representation of my roster. I will be completely honest. My first couple of years in the league, I tried too many times to speed up the rebuild, and a lot of times I would trade a lot of assets for some players that would make my team look good in the moment, but I mean, just to recall some trades, I gave up a season after Allen Robinson got his 1,400 yards. He tore his ACL week 1 the next year after I traded a slew of picks and players for him. I mean, I just made some bad trades. I tried to speed up a rebuild, and that's definitely my fault, and that's the pits of my early regime. But I think recently we've gotten a lot better. We've gotten a lot more patient. And I think now, especially with this roster that I'm currently building now, I do believe this upcoming season starting, actually, I think I'm going to be a juggernaut in this league. I think a lot of people may look at my roster and still see some holes, but with the three-headed monster of Saquon, Bijan, and Jalen Waddle, I think everybody else is honestly just whipped cream after that icing on the cake.
You got a running quarterback in Daniel Jones, who's in fantasy. Those are numbers, puts up numbers. You have when you draft Bijan Robinson, hopefully lands in the right spot for you. Between him, Barkley, and Akers, you have 3 good running backs, and you at least have 2 good wide receivers. You're probably gonna need to find a way, unless Kadarius Toney turns it around, but takes that next step. You're gonna need one more receiver.
Yeah, I definitely see myself. I mean, I'm definitely going to be trying at a couple more picks in this draft because there are some other receivers that I like. But as you said, Al, I mean, the receivers looking a little bit weak. I think Jalen Waddle and Amari Cooper are good 1 and 2s, but I really want to add. My goal really before last season was really to add a premier receiver. I think Jalen Waddle's on his way to becoming a premier receiver. However, with Tua in and out of the lineup and Tyreek Hill taking a lot of the target share, I like to think of Jalen Waddle as just a really high-end 2, so I'm still trying to land that premier 1. So I'll definitely be taking some time to do that, seeing what kind of assets I can move around for our top guy.
And here's a couple of things that I've noticed. Your postseason record is very impressive for someone that's only been in the league for half the DRAMABOWL history. You're 5-1 in the postseason. Given you had 2 postseason appearances and both of them you went straight to the championship, so I mean that's going to inflate your number immediately, but that's still good. You got guys in this league that have been here 13 years that don't have 5 wins in the postseason.
Yeah.
But then you have that gray area, and where you have 3 of your 7 seasons you've lost double-digit games, and you only have one winning season and where you had a winning record in your 7 years, which was DRAMABOWL 10. You went 8-5. All your other years, you were under 500. Are we going to see a turnaround on that? Because I do got to tip my cap off to you on one thing. It took you 3 years to rebuild that team you took over, and you won a championship. And you went to back-to-back championships. So, I mean, people can say what they want. At the end of the day, you took a dumpster fire team, and in a matter of 3 years, you rebuilt it and went to back-to-back finals and won one. Again, you have guys that have been here 13 years that haven't won a championship yet.
Right. I mean, listen, I think at the end of the day, people can say what they want about my record, but I think my resume speaks for itself. At the end of the day, you're right. I was handed a dumpster fire of a team. And honestly, that was definitely a tough rebuild. And like I said, there were times where I tried to rush it and should probably set it back a little bit. But I look around this league in guys. I mean, take Mosey for example. I don't think I've ever seen that guy. I would rather be in my shoes than his, where this guy has a 10-4 record every year, but I don't think I've ever seen him win a playoff game. Or Muhammad, who his glory days were stumbling into the Final Four, which is the second round of the playoffs, one time in his second-year appearance, and he's been living on that for 6 years. Or Abdullah, who his only ring came 11 years ago. These aren't real accolades to me, and I think, I think when I look at those guys, and I look at myself, I say, I'm doing pretty good. You know what I mean? I think of everything Sully used to be in this league. And I think that, Sully I'll say this because Sully's turned it around, you know what I mean, big time. He was probably one of the worst GMs, but I think recently he's probably become one of the best ones.
Yeah, he can build through that draft, buddy.
He definitely can, and he has. But like I said, I think a few years ago I would look at his roster and I would be like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? There were definitely times where I felt like I may pull a Moj, you know what I mean? Quit the league and wait for someone else to quit and just scoop up their contending team. But that just doesn't seem honest to me. You know what I mean?
I can say this. You have, outside of Mr. Monday Night and the Evil Empire, because they're the most recent champions, you are the next most accomplished member in this league. I mean, I don't care, I don't know if you heard the interview yet with Conjugal Visits. The guy's so full of himself. I mean, literally, this guy just thinks this league runs around him, and he's the most successful franchise in this Drama Bowl. The guy hasn't won in 12 years.
Right.
But
and like I said, that's what I don't want to be. You know what I mean? I don't want to look in my past. I mean, I look at the GM of Conjugal Visit, and this guy hasn't won in 12 years. Yet he has his accolades copied and pasted in the notes of his phone, and he posts it like 3 times a week in the chat. We get it. You won once 12 years ago.
Who was the last 3 champions, Isam? Who was the last 3 champions of the Drama Bowl?
Well, that would be me, you, and Mo, right?
Yes, correct.
I mean, and if you ask me an unbiased standpoint, I won't even put them in order, but those are the top 3 GMs in the league to me. And I honestly think, as you said, the league is becoming a little bit more competitive. We are still kind of like the top dogs in a way, and everybody else, they're hanging on to their regular season, their regular season victories. There's just, I'm sorry, but when you tell me, when you rank the tier of GMs in this league, I think it's the top 3 that I just named, and then everybody else is just, they're around or near each other. The top 3, they aren't close to the rest of the league. I'm sorry to say.
Here's one thing I give you. I give Mr. Monday Night. I give Horses on You, Sully, my brother.
Yeah.
And for the most part, almost everybody else in this league, Z, Walking Dead, Conjugal Visits to a certain degree, but I don't build through the draft the way, and when I mean the draft, I'm not talking about the Drama Bowl draft. I'm talking about the NFL draft, because I don't follow college. I know nothing about college. I am at the mercy of Bleacher Report.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't follow college. I have no interest in college football. You know what I'm saying? So you guys all have that advantage over me, but I still always feel like every year I find that diamond in the rough. You know what I'm saying? You, on the other hand, you pay attention to college. You understand these players. Like, you had your eye on Bijan Robinson before you even knew where you were going to be in the lottery draft.
Right, and Bijan Robinson is the reason why I even traded into that lottery. And I know it sounds like a terrible strategy, but I took a dart throw, and I said, listen, I traded a couple of guys. I traded McCaffrey. I got Cordell Patterson. Not Cordell Patterson, sorry. I got Cam Akers in that pick. Mm-hmm. Now that pick is going to turn into Cam Akers and Bijan Robinson, And I know at the time it definitely looked questionable. But, sorry, I actually got another first in that trade that I traded for a couple of other assets. So I got a slew of assets for CMC, which at the time people looked at it and they're like, what are you doing? But I was playing chess while everyone was playing checkers,
Smart.
But like I said, and the thing is, too, is like I'm willing to take a risk like that, you know what I mean? If there's so many teams in this league where they only make a trade if they're winning at face value, and you can't do that.